The scariest part is this takes place in high school. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my first impressions reaction to Monster High, specifically the 2022 version, which I believe is the third generation for the series. So, for those who are new to the channel, might be checking it out specifically for this reaction, what is a first impressions reaction? Well, it's when I don't know if I'm going to be into a show or specifically into reacting to it. So I give it a chance. I give it the first episode or so, and I determine if this is something I want to continue on into the future, or if it's something I'd rather watch on my own time, or if it's something I'm just not interested in. And we determine that just based on how I feel after watching this first episode. It's basically a trial run for a series. And so the next question you may be wondering is, why Monster High? Well, this series, when it came out a few years back, was actually requested for me a few times. There were, I think, a couple different people who were asking me about this on a couple different videos. They were asking me, are you going to react to the new Monster High series? Are you going to react to this? And my response at the time was basically, I had no thoughts of reacting to it. That wasn't in my plans, but if someone were to donate for it for a donation reward, I would do it. It was pretty much it wasn't on my radar because I was never into Monster High. I never had seen any of the previous generations. I never collected the dolls or anything. It just was never on my radar. I know that this franchise, I guess you could say, is pretty well loved. There is a notable fan base for it. It never got as big as other toy-based franchises. I think Bratz was always kind of bigger. Obviously, in terms of dolls, Barbie is the biggest, but even My Little Pony got bigger with Generation 4, with Friendship is Magic. But it still has a very notable and very passionate fan base. And I just, again, it never really seemed like something I would want to react to. And now, a few years later, I've kind of just accidentally come across those comments again. I was looking back at some old comments on older videos, and I saw one of them, and it's oh, okay. And I thought, I just did a first impressions last week for Pokemon Horizons, but mind you, that was a planned thing for Pokemon Day, even if it ended up being the day after just because of time and everything. But I thought, I could probably squeeze another in right now. So that's what we're doing. And like I said, this is just a first impression. I don't know if we're going to continue the entire series. I'm making that clear right off the bat for anyone who might be checking this out. I will let you know by the end of the video in my afterthoughts whether or not I'm going to continue it in the future. But just as a note, if I do continue it, it will not be right away. It'll be at some point in the future when I get the opportunity and when I find the right time for a show like this. Because I have a lot of other first impression stuff to get to. I have a lot of donation reward stuff to get to, a lot of shows I just want to get to. So it's I can't guarantee when it will happen, but if I do decide to continue it, it will happen. Now, I was very into My Little Pony Friendship is Magic and the subsequent generation, Make Your Mark. And growing up, I used to watch a lot of Barbie-related movies and stuff with my sister. And I did enjoy them on my own merits as well. But again, this is something that's never really crossed my radar. So from what I gather, it's about these teenage versions of famous kind of monsters, like vampires, werewolves, etc. kind of navigating high school life while also integrating in some, monster related shenanigans. And that's kind of the vibe I get from it. I'm not always a huge fan of a lot of these like teen show kind of things. But when done well, I can get into them. There is one thing I know about this series, that is one of the reasons I have decided to check it out. And I'm not going to say what it is right now, but it is actually really cool. There's one thing I think it's said in the first episode. So when it is said, I will let you know. But yeah, it's one of the reasons I wanted to check this out, because it sounded like, oh, well, that actually might be really cool. I don't know where it was aired originally. I know it's a Nickelodeon-based show, but it is on Paramount Plus, which is where we're going to be reacting to it today, because let me tell you, finding a downloadable link for this series is insanely difficult, and I was not able to find anything. But because I have Walmart Plus, I get free Paramount Plus, because that's a thing for some reason. And so it's like, I don't usually like recording things directly off the browser, because sometimes it can cause notable lag issues. But to be fair, you sometimes get that with VLC Media Player too. At least on my computer, because of my computer not being super great. Sometimes VLC lags a little bit. Sometimes it freezes for like a split second. Sometimes it like the screen kind of like inverts in terms of coloration and stuff. It gets messy sometimes. It's usually not too bad for the most part, and when it does get too bad, if I pause it for a few seconds, it kind of fixes itself for the most part. But yeah, it's like, I guess with that in mind, it probably won't be too big of a deal to record this straight off of the site. So yeah, we're gonna get to it here. We're only watching the first episode, like I said. So we're just gonna kind of play it by ear. I will give my full honest thoughts as I'm reacting and after, during the afterthoughts. And for those who are new to the channel, we do redirect everything to another site. This is just because of copyright reasons. This is just because YouTube's copyright system is shit. And in order to keep the channel safe from possibly being, taken down, because I've dealt with that before, unfortunately, we do have to redirect it to another site. But on the plus side, that does mean you get the entire reaction, the full, unedited reaction, completely free. You just have to click the link down in the description below. So yeah. Otherwise, I don't really know what we're going to get into here. I don't know, what the humor's going to be like. I don't know what the writing's going to be like, the characterizations. I will say that story and character do tend to be my most important factors in any show. So I'm hoping that it ends up being really good in those factors, because I can forgive the animation if it's a little wonky. I do know this is in 3D. I can forgive the animation if it's not, super up to par. If the voice acting isn't perfect, I can forgive that. But the story and the characters need to be good for me. Don't have to necessarily be the best, but they have to at least be good. So we'll see. I'm really hoping to enjoy this, and if I don't, please don't crucify me. It's all subjective. It's all my opinion. But hopefully it never comes to that. Hopefully I end up really enjoying this. Let's find out. Let's get to the reaction. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up. Iris Manas is non-binary. They're transmasc non-binary. And also, I did find out I do know them from something. They were in the remake of West Side Story. They were Anybody's. I think the name is. Hold on, let me make sure. Um, bu- 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 yes, Anybody's. I was right on the name. But on top of that, I mentioned recognizing Cleo's VA, Kazar Muhammad. I recognize that name. And I was looking through Kaiser's information here, and it's like, oh yeah, I definitely know her for two very specific things. She was Manic in Cannon Busters, which we reacted to on the channel, but more so than that, the big thing that I know her for is she voices Abby, my favorite character in Great Pretender, the anime series that I reacted to the movie Great Pretender Resoluto. Um, but I never reacted to the series. I watched that on my own time. And Abby is like the main girl in that. She's one of the main trio, and easily my favorite character. I knew I recognized the name from somewhere because I did watch Great Pretender in dub, by the way. Um, it's just, I knew I recognized the name. Yeah, Kazar Muhammad was from that, and I wanted to look up as well. I actually forgot to look this up before, but Tony Revelori. Yeah, that's him. He played Flash in the Spider-Man movies. He was also in the Great Budapest Hotel. But yeah, he's I know him mostly from the Spider-Man films. That those were the big ones. But he was in Grand Budapest Hotel. I did see that as well. I believe I reacted to that. So that's pretty cool too. And I'm wondering if I kind of maybe know some of these other VAs from other stuff and just don't recognize the names. I'm not going to look them all up right now, but that's pretty interesting. And I do love that Frankie is voiced by an actual non-binary VA. I think that's just great for representation. Amazing to see. But let's talk about this. So this first episode feels very quick. And like ignoring that it's split into two parts, that's not a big deal because the two parts, the two segments were basically just. I think they were just segmented because that's how the show is gonna work. But it's like that's just how the show is, I guess. Um, it didn't really change anything because it was still one whole story. Um, it moved very fast though. It's like especially in the first half, the first half of it like was kind of giving Claudine's backstory and everything just like flying by. And I will give it credit. It explained this by telling us that she had been telling all of this to the headmistress, Bloodgood. So the fact that she was just recounting all of this information makes the fact that it was going by a lot quicker make a little more sense. It works a little better than if she were just not doing that. But at the same time, it still did feel very quick. It felt like it was just skipping through things and like Claudine's backstory and her like her feelings about monsters, her the way she's, not just bullied but kind of like ignored and has no friends and everything. Her relationship with her father and the fact that her mother has been, I guess, missing for 10 years. It's like all of this was kind of skimmed over really quickly. You get the gist of what's happening, you understand, but at the same time, it's like you don't really get the chance to really absorb it. And I know this is a show meant for a younger audience. It's meant for like young teens and whatnot. And that's fine, but I do feel like they could have slowed it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. Um, I again do not know if this originally aired like on television or if it was streaming original. I just don't know. But I almost feel like this first episode, instead of like being a two-parter with still being 22 minutes long, I feel like if they stretch this out into a double-length episode, like 44 minutes long to an hour with commercials and all, I think that would have worked better because it would have allowed a lot more time to really grasp everything, to truly introduce these characters, start to understand them, start to understand the school, make the stakes feel a little stronger with the Onikuma. I feel like they could have done a lot more. I understand that it's hard to stretch something out to that all the time, and a lot of times you might not have the budget to do that. So I can get why they might not have done it, but at the same time, it's like it might have helped a little bit because this did genuinely feel a little rushed. The story itself, like Claudine's entire like character story and everything about how she's feeling like she doesn't fit in, like she doesn't belong, and she's always had this love for monsters and this instinct about her that she might even be one. I like that. I think it's a good series of traits and um, like early characterizations for her. It allows her to feel like sympathetic because we automatically see she's an outcast. She's not well liked. She doesn't, again, have friends at all. And so when she comes here and like kind of instantly connects with these others, with Frankie, with Draculaura, it's like it's nice to see that instant connection, but I also kind of feel like there should be maybe a little bit of tension. Though we're seeing that with some other characters. Some of the other characters in the school are showing a little less instant acceptance of her. And I think that some of this story is going to be her like winning them over as well. So if it goes in that direction, that'll kind of fix that problem for me. I like that Frankie instantly introduces themselves as like using they them pronouns, like the instant they appear, pretty much. This is, like I said, something I knew about. I had heard about this just in a couple places before, and I had heard that it was revealed in the first episode. So I knew to expect this. And it's mentioned once and no one makes any kind of big deal out of it. It's just a thing. I mean, in a world in a school where everyone's monsters in the first place, it's like, do you really have room for discrimination? Like, let's be honest here. So it's like, yeah, why would anyone say anything about that? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. And honestly, if someone did ever say anything about that, like at any point in this series, I feel like they should draw attention to the fact that it makes no sense to do that. It's like when your characters are all like literally outcasts, like that's a thing that's set up. Like even Principal Bloodgood mentions that they send out these letters because parents often won't understand finding out their children are monsters, and so they put this hex on them to make them not worry, to make them not question, so that the kids can come out to them about it when they're ready. Which also, by the way, very much could be seen as a little bit of an allegory about queer relationships and coming out to your parents about being queer. I could definitely see a connection with that there. Um, yeah, it's just it's got a lot of promise with that. I also like that Deuce, which by the way, Deuce is a great like play on Medusa and everything. I like that Deuce's snakes. He has seven of them, and they're all like named after and based around the seven deadly sins. I think that's a really fantastic concept. I've never seen that done with like a Gorgon before. That's such a great idea. Like I've seen interpretation of Gorgons where the snakes were like their own like characters in a way to where they have personality and interact with the Gorgon themselves. But I've never seen them depicted as like the seven deadly sins. I think that's such a unique idea and can add some really interesting dynamics to interactions and whatnot. We saw a bit of it in this episode. I like how the ghost girl, who I can't remember her name, is it on here? I have the credits still up. Spectra. I like how Spectra is constantly trying to scare Claudine, like throughout the episode. It's like a recurring gag almost. And at first, like Claudine just doesn't react, and Spectra's very dejected by it because she's, trying to be scary. She's trying to, haunt and everything. But at the end, Claudine compliments her on it. It says you're doing really well, and that makes Spectra really happy. It's like she feels she's, succeeding at what she's meant to succeed at. And I think that's just another really cool moment because it feels like it was well built up to, as does the Onikuma. The Onikuma was set up earlier in the episode, like the very beginning. She's reading about it in the library and all. The Onikuma is like, Onikuma obviously meaning monster bear, is like this monster that throws rocks and stuff and can only be stopped by being tickled. And it's perfectly set up, but I never thought of it. When we see the bear attacking, even when we see the bear like watching them, it just does not cross my mind that was the Onikuma. It never clicked for me until literally the moment it was said. And then it's just like it's like a light bulb went off in my head. It's like the cartoons, when a light bulb goes off in, like, I don't know, Daffy Duck's or someone's head, and it's just like the moment they understand, like it clicks for them. It's like that for me. It's just I did not like grasp that at all, and I kind of feel dumb that I didn't grasp it. Because let's be honest, this show is very simplistic. It's a very simplistic show that deals with very simplistic things in a very simplistic way. And I don't mean that as an insult, because sometimes shows should be simple. And a show like this that, let's be honest, is pretty much a marketing thing, like to sell the toys, to sell the dolls and everything, it's not going to be something, and it shouldn't be something, that is super, like, extensive in how it's portrayed. Not everything's going to be like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, where it, like, is needlessly complex. Like, MLP didn't need to go that hard, but it did. And it's appreciated when it does, but it doesn't need to. And going into the show, I really didn't expect it to be anything, like, extravagant in that regard. I expected it to be more simple. And I think for what it was, I think it was good. I think it was entertaining. The puns are insane. There are so many puns, you don't have room to breathe. They're so constant. Everything is a pun. Everyone's name is a pun. It's so silly. Also, Frankie's name just being Frankie Stein, I feel like that's every, Frankenstein teenage character ever. I think that was also the name of the Frankenstein character from the Ghoul School, Scooby-Doo Ghoul School, who also appeared in OKKO, because OKKO is awesome like that and has some pretty cool, what is the word? Crossovers. The Ghoul School crossover is still my favorite from OKKO. It's like, I geeked out so goddamn hard when that happened. Because I grew up with Ghoul School. Like, that was my childhood. But yeah, I believe the Frankenstein character in that is also named Frankie Stein. So it's like, that's very generic. But again, I don't mind that. Because it's like, it's easy. It's simple. But it works. It expresses exactly what it needs to. I do kind of dig that their body is constantly falling apart and they have to, like, try to fix it and everything, but also they can take their body apart at will. to use it like for like spying and stuff, like lend me your ear and everything. It's like that was like they did that joke in the live action One Piece with Buggy. Because Buggy can basically do the same thing, so what a weird connection to make, but hey. Yeah, we didn't see a huge amount of Cleo. So I'm definitely thinking we're gonna see more Cleo as it goes along. Uh, the main trio of Claudine, Frankie, and Draculaura were clearly meant to be our main characters here. Deuce seems like kind of a secondary main character, and then the others haven't really elevated to anything beyond yet. But they're definitely going to get their own times to shine, and I'm very curious to see more of that. Um, I like that Bloodgood is not like mean or anything. She's like she shows that she genuinely feels sorry for Claudine when she thinks she's a human and everything. But she's also not going to put up with, a human as she saw her originally, like trying to infiltrate the school. I mean, probably for a number of reasons. I mean, she's the headmistress. She has to protect the students and protect the interests of the school. It's like, yeah, I mean, there might be a lot of reasons why they wouldn't want humans in there. Maybe humans have like attacked their kind. That would be interesting if they went into like that kind of stuff. Um, the fact that Claudine's father knew was obvious. It's like his daughter is fucking named Claudine Wolf. It's like you think he doesn't know that his daughter is half werewolf? You think he doesn't know that his wife is a werewolf? It's like, bitch, his daughter's name is Claudine Wolf. And I mean, I get it. I get it. It's, again, a toy commercial and everything. You have to add story to something that doesn't originally have story. But still. It's like, yeah, no shit. It's kind of unclear if he and Bloodgood know each other, though. Because she was making it seem like she didn't know Claudine's parents or who Claudine was at all. Or anything like that. But he made it seem like he did know Bloodgood. So that's really interesting. I wonder, like, where that's going to come into play. Um, but yeah, I'm very curious to see just how this ends up going. And in that regard, I think I should probably say what I feel is pretty obvious. We will be continuing reacting to this. It's dumb, it's simple, but in a very entertaining way. It's a very enjoyable watch. Like, even for some of it just being so ridiculously goofy, it's like I can just dig that sometimes. Like, I talked about in the pre-thoughts, like, I enjoy stories mostly that, like, have good story and character, and I think that this does. It doesn't need to be this complex, nuanced series to have good story and character. It doesn't have to be like something like extremely mature and everything. Like, I love shows like The Owl House, which are very mature. But I also like shows like this that are just more simple and enjoyable and, you know, fun. And for all I know, this might end up getting more mature. It might end up like crossing into some more heavy territory. It's very possible. And I'm willing to see. Plus, it has some good VAs in it. Tony Revolori has done voice work in something else. I kind of want to look that up. Because he did voice... I noticed he did voice work in something else I saw, and I can't remember what it was right now. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was a show, but I'm not sure. Oh, he was in Scream 6, by the way, so there's another thing. Boy and the Heron, that was one thing for sure. Yeah, he was Parakeet in Boy and the Heron. We reacted to that as well. Let me check shows, though. He's been in a lot of things, apparently. Apparently, he was in Shameless. Oh, he was in a couple episodes of OKKO. Speaking of, I mentioned that. He was Chameleon Jr. and Dolph Finn. So, yeah, he was in a couple episodes of OKKO, so that's pretty fun. Um, oh, and apparently he plays Flash Thompson in a web series called The Daily Bugle. Okay. That's, I guess, somehow connected to the MCU. And does have J.K. Simmons reprising his role, too. I have never heard of this. Apparently it's on YouTube and TikTok, which is interesting. But yeah, apparently he's in that. He's apparently in Craig of the Creek, which I haven't seen. My Name is Earl. That's an interesting one. And he even has a movie coming out this year called Roof Man, which is apparently a crime drama that also stars Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, Ben Mendelsohn, Peter Dinklage, Uzo. Damn, this has a stacked cast. I haven't heard of this one, so that's wild. Oh, it's a biopic of a U.S. Army Reserve officer. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I like the cast. I think I think this could be a good, just like, more casual, fun watch. Something that's not that I don't really have to like think too hard about. So if a slot ever opens up where I just want something, a little more casual, a little more lighthearted to check out, I think that this would be a good show for that. Like I said in the pre-thoughts, I don't know and I can't promise when we'll get back to it. It's gonna be basically be put on my list, and again, when I have a slot open up and I feel like I want to get to something sort of like this, that's when I'll put it in. It could be soon, it could be a couple months from now, who knows? Again, I'm not going to make any promises because I know they probably will not be kept. Anything can happen. It could come a lot sooner, it could come a lot later. It's going to depend a lot on the other stuff I'm reacting to as well. Because it's like if other stuff starts to really get me down and starts to really like make me feel like I do need something new to like chill out with, to relax with, this would be a good time to bring that in. Or if that feeling just ever hits me anyway. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know what you thought of this first episode, and as always, no spoilers, please. I want to go into these as spoiler-free as possible, so please do not tell me about anything that's to come. But if you have seen any of like the previous versions of Monster High, I am kind of curious. I would like to kind of know what your thoughts on like comparing them are. As long as, again, there's no spoilers for this series. But that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.